What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Ask A CISSP podcast. So this is our Thursday episode of The Other Side of the Firewall, where we talk about the latest and greatest cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. So speaking of which, special guests. So we have Yvonne Rivera. She is the CEO, CISO, co-founder of CyberMyte, as well as she is the Deputy Executive Director of Raíces.CyberOrg. So I think I nailed it that time. So thank you very much for coming to the show. I greatly appreciate you reaching out and being a part of the show. So I would like to, go over your background, your cybersecurity origin story, and then we'll talk about your companies and its initiatives, as well as the organization and all the good that you're doing in the cybersecurity community. And we'll just go from there. So if you could, kind of break down who you are, what you do.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Ryan, for having me. I really appreciate this. So a little bit about me. Obviously, my name is Yvonne. I started out, I'd like to say I started in cyber when I was 17, when I joined the Army. I joined out of Puerto Rico. I really didn't see much else for myself besides just going into the military. They gave me two job options. It was either to climb poles and hang telephone wires or be an IT specialist. So I was like, I'll do that one. I didn't really know much about computers or, what the job really meant. I just knew that I didn't want to climb a pole and run cables as a journeyman. So that's basically where, my journey started. Before all that, I guess I'm a military brat. My dad, fourth generation Army here. I was also in the military. My dad was in the military. My grandfather was drafted into the military. And I mean, it just goes way, way back. So we've been in the military for a long time. And my two oldest girls are actually in the Army right now.
Okay.
I have five kids. And two of them are in the Army and three of them are still at home. Today is my son's 6th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just kind of been everywhere. I've lived everywhere, done all the things. I claim Florida as my home state, lived there for most of my adult or growing up years. Went to school for elementary, middle, and high down in South Florida. And then moved to Puerto Rico and then joined the Army. I did 3 tours overseas. I did 2 in Iraq and one in Afghanistan. I was pretty much with 101st the whole time, stationed out of Fort Campbell.
Okay.
And basically my journey was my job was IT, but back then, IT was cyber as well. My job consisted of running around with a CD-ROM and sometimes more than one CD. And I had to run around to these big, ugly Dells and, pop in CDs. And as I'm doing an antivirus scan on one CD, I have like 5 copies and I'm running them on the ones next to it. And I'm running scans because, there was all of this was like decentralized. Nothing was like managed. And then I had to like patch them one by one. And then you could only fit so many patches in one CD. It was it was a good job for a private. And that's basically what I did. That was my job.
No, that's awesome. So there's some parallels there, which is I find interesting. So everybody knows that, and notoriously come into these interviews underprepared. Like I like to not know as much as possible, so I can ask questions as though I'm, an audience member. So when you said that it was between I think your 25 uniform was what you were in the.
I was a Bravo, 25 Bravo.
Oh, okay, 25 Bravo. Got you.
I actually joined as a 74 Bravo.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay.
That's how old I am.
Like I've been like my AFSC, right? Like so our MOS, I changed 3 times while I was in. So yeah, I feel your pain. But so in basic, I had to pick jobs. So one of the ones that was picked for me was telephones. So I had to climb the pole, and I learned very quickly I had a fear of heights. So I got to the very top, and I could let go of one hand, let go of the other hand. When they said let go with both and trust your harness, failed. I couldn't let go.
I wouldn't have let go. I would have had to change my MOS as well.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, they come down, get pick another job. So that's why I got into at the time it was called data maintenance, which transformed to cyber transport. So I went from soldering boards and things of that nature, dealing with crypto and
Okay.
telephones, and then I pivoted into switching and routing. So it's more like a 25 November is what I ended
Okay.
up
Yep.
being.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
so my mom
All
was Army
right.
as well, but I learned all the MOSs here in Florida. So I was in the Joint Communication Support Element. So it was an airborne
Okay.
unit, and we had all the different services there. So I got a deep respect for the Army, both family and my coworkers. So that's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
And yeah, that's awesome that you have that background. So like that definitely feeds into our conversation of
Yeah.
where you started.
No, that's good. That makes me happy that I didn't choose the journeyman one. I knew it wasn't going to be right for me because they showed me pictures. I
Oh
saw that
man.
dude climbing the pole and I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
No, I ironically, my last job was I was in charge of those guys, so I deep respect for them. They climb anything, like they had no fear. They go
Yeah,
so
they're
they go
crazy. They're
underground,
fine.
yeah. So they go in
Yeah, they're
sewers, they climb poles. I'm like, nah, not for me.
I won't even
Um,
climb to hang Christmas lights. No, I'm good.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But no, that's awesome. So okay, so you said 2 tours. Thank you for your service, or you said 3 tours. I'm sorry,
3
two to
tours. Yep.
Iraq. Thank you for your service. Greatly
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. My was it my first tour towards the end, we were kind of trying to build out the infrastructure of the building we were at. And I had to crawl through one of the palace buildings that we started to kind of take over.
mhm,
And I would have to, I ended up being a sort of journeyman, but more like a Lima, which was like the what we call cable dogs.
right.
And I ended up having to like crawl through the crawl spaces of the palace, which were like that skinny, and I'd come out with like this inch of like dust and
Right.
stuff. Who knows what else was up there? But all to run this fiber cable and then to come down, and it was just didn't work. It would be the saddest
Mm,
thing ever.
right. That's
You'd have to
terrible.
go through like all these kinks and all this kind of stuff, and I mean it was crazy. But some of the cool stuff we got to do was we got to wire up some of the universities there for like the women, so they can
Okay.
learn how to do like use like office products and do some school online. And we did some missions there where we were able to bring some of these areas there online and stuff like that. Some of the locals actually taught me how to splice fiber. Definitely learned a lot over there. um,
That's awesome. And when it hearts and minds, right? That was the mission.
Say it again.
I said when it hearts and minds, like, that's part of the mission,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it is. That is correct. So yeah, that's basically where my journey started. During the second deployment is when we kind of started to talk more about like um IAVAs and like those
Right.
those announcements and
Right. And Stigs
that
and all
kind of
that good stuff. Yeah.
Stigs, and that's when we started making like Excel spreadsheets. So that was around 05, 06. But before that it was just kind of like, you know, like
But Wild
it
Wild
was
West.
like, yeah, I mean, we used to patch computers. I'm talking about like Exchange in production
Mm,
during wartime, like live. I mean, it was just the
right.
things we did back then just like blow people's minds today. But I mean, it was just that's what, it's just the difference of things then and things now. But um yeah, just the things that I learned just from coming from the 25 Bravo field, where you did things in the data center, you did things in the help desk, you did things, crawling through roofs, you
Right.
or ceilings. I mean, you kind of like learned all the areas you did. Some people kind of went towards the networking and routing area, that they sat in the NOCs and stuff like that, but there weren't really defined SOCs. There wasn't a cyber team. None of that stuff ended up really being a thing until about 2009.
Right.
Um, so you had DIACAP, but that kind of wasn't really super strict until yeah, I could be lying about my time frame here, but it was probably about my third-ish deployment. So I want to say around 2007, 2008, I think is when not DICAP, DITSCAP was like a thing. Um, so that's when you kind of had to start learning how to write documentation and, this is how we run the system, and this is how it's continuously monitored, and that kind of stuff. This is
Gotcha.
its version, and yada yada.
Yeah,
So that's kind
ATOs
of,
and RMF packages and all that good stuff.
yeah. So I started doing all that back in 2007 with the DITSCAP, then it went to DICAP, now it's with RMF, and another day it's just going to get changed to something else.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the journey. So
And what
basically,
was
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was gonna say, what was that transformation like when you transitioned out of the army into the private
Yeah.
sector?
So in the Army, I'm going to say it's probably the easiest job I ever had. Yeah, I deployed, and that was really terrible, but somebody told me what to do, when to do, how to do it, and it was like I didn't really have to think much.
Right, right place, right uniform, right time.
Yeah, yeah. So when I got out, I was lucky enough to get a government civilian position at a hospital. So I was able to work that position. I started out as a normal system administrator, but I slowly kind of worked myself into a non-existent cyber role. They didn't have a cyber role at all, and they were working on their DICAT package, and I kind of stepped up and was like, this is kind of something that I know and I do and I'm really good at.
Right,
So my goal was to kind of build up the cybersecurity program, or the information security program, um, or information assurance program, and just kind of build it out, make it better, make it more efficient, but then to also kind of cater to each department, because a hospital is very complicated. You had your then the implementation of the CAC became very difficult for situations like the pharmacy, or your
mhm,
the testing areas where the doctors had to put in their CAC just to let the student take a test, and then we were requiring them to remove the CAC when they left the room, and then the
right,
test was deactivated. So we had to come up with all these, like, different scenarios and situations where we would have to, request a mitigation for the CAC requirement, or come up with those solutions like this kiosk solution. And it was a whole lot of fun just to kind of put together these programs, walk around each department and kind of train them on, hey, nurses, don't leave your CAC in there. Don't leave
right,
doctors. I mean, how many times do you go to a hospital and they just leave it in the laptop when they leave your room, and you're just like, ah, I could see everybody's stuff right now.
right,
Um, yeah, so that's what I did when I became a government civilian. Then I went overseas to Europe, and I did that a little bit more over there. We put together the first RMF package over there for a web application. That was a hot mess. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of people just kind of coming together to figure out, like, how do we start? What's the flow? What do we need? What don't we
right.
need? We had a lot of people together, kind of like just working through it. It's kind of fun being at the very beginning of all that kind of stuff. And then I decided just kind of to leave all that, and I went contractor, and then moved to Charleston and did that for a while. And I kind of noticed that everywhere I went, there was always kind of like this, you know, how do we do DICAP? How do we do RMF? How do we make sure we're doing the right thing? Or there's these people that are always just kind of saying the wrong thing. Oh, you need this, you need that. And I was like, no, you don't. What are you
Right.
saying? My favorite is when they come up with terms like, you need the RMF overlay, or this and that. And I'm just like, oh, stop talking. No. Those are and I'd come in and I'd just be like, no, this is what you need. And I'd come in and I would tell them, it's like, RMF or DICAP, whatever you want to call it, any risk assessment is just, it's just saying you're taking your product and you're assessing it against, the potential risks of that product. And this isn't, RMF it's not a checkbox. You don't have to get all of them right to pass the test. And I think that there's just like this thing where that's what they felt like they always had to do. So I created these like these little notebooks, and they kind of, you know, I made these little notebooks so that all the ISSOs and ISSEs, or information security officers and
Right.
engineers can have this little book, and they'd open it up and say, okay, so today is Monday, so I need to check my logs. I need to do backups and this kind of stuff.
Okay, so other standard operating procedures
Yeah,
and
it was kind
TTPs
of
or
like an SOP, but it was like a little I Love Me book of like tasks, and but it had a SOP in it. So it would tell them how to do it, but at the same time it would have, you know how like right now when you do an RMF, it'll say, do you log when you check your logs?
right,
So this would kind of be like the place where you had, it was all manual because back then we didn't, it was the government. You didn't have the tools to just have a place to log all that stuff. But I just kind of started walking around educating everybody. This is what this STIG is just talking about. Are you checking the checker? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Just because you're not doing it exactly how this STIG says it right here, you're doing something even better. You're still complying. You're doing it even better.
right,
So I just kind of, it was more like I started putting on this like educational, like I something that I really like is just kind of walking around and just teaching and giving knowledge, and stopping the spread of the rumors,
oh yeah, the
or the false
disinformation,
information.
right,
The disinformation. There you go. So yeah, and then somewhere in there, I became the CEO of my company, mostly because I think it was the last contract I worked on. It was really, really hard to watch that all these small businesses were trying to get on this contract. And some of them just had these amazing ideas. And we'd sit in these meetings and they'd show us these awesome, presentations. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need that.
right.
And then the last question the government would ask, they'd be like, so do you have an ATO? And the small business is like, do I have a what? Do I have a what? And then the government would be like, well, have you worked with the government before? And they're like, no, we're a small business. We're just starting out. We built this to hopefully solve your problem.
Right.
Yeah, man, but you've
This
never worked with the government before. You don't have an ATO.
right.
Sorry.
We built you the perfect solution, right? We've architected this
Yeah,
perfect solution. However, we're not in the system,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
network, so to speak. So let's take a step back. So okay, so you have a lot of your training coming from your 25 Bravo roots.
yes,
And then you are, pioneering, trend setting and teaching when it came to that transition into the GS or government civilian type role, especially in the hospital. Like, so hospitals still
yeah,
have notoriously have issues, like not just the
yeah,
VA, but just hospitals in general. We just
yeah.
did a story, probably will air this Tuesday. So like today, but it will be in the future. So it's always confusing. Continuity is always broken in these days. So
Yeah.
sometime this week, we'll talk about a children's hospital that was recently attacked, a cyber attack. Um, so trend setting, teaching, pioneering, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to switch over to the contracting, and then you saw that, hey, um, I can do this better, or I have enough tools where I can do this myself. So where does that, because you're an entrepreneur, where does that spirit come from? Like, what makes you have the drive to say? Because a lot of people are fearful. Like, so asking for a friend, I am that friend. How did you? What made you feel comfortable enough to make that plunge?
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. Every day I'm scared. Like every single day I'm scared, but um I don't really know. It was just something, all I know is that it was just something that really upset me.
Mhm.
And I knew I could do something about it. And in the back of my head, it didn't seem hard. uh,
Right, because
you
you
know,
have so many skills, right? That you
I
from these different
guess.
career paths, you're like, I can just put it all together. But again, it's that you still have to have the drive to do so. So
Yeah, I
it
guess I
must
never
be,
really, yeah.
yeah. So you must have like, do you think you it was just something that you always had, or did the military empower you, or like what
I've always been kind
pushed
of
you?
a controlling leader kind of person. I am a Leo, so
Gotcha.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's so is my wife. So I hear you loud and clear.
yeah. I guess I tend to be. I tend to be kind of an introvert in the background, but at the same time, I'm very passionate. And when I have an idea, I tend to try to be the loudest person with that idea. So I guess when I really sit back and think about it, it makes sense that, that was really kind of like I don't want to say traumatic, that's a dramatic word, but it was kind of like a moment where I was like, I can do something about this,
Right.
and then somebody else had whispered in my ear, they're like, and you're Hispanic, and you're a disabled veteran, and you're a woman. Dude, you've got like
Right. That's the
all
801c like gold stamp right there where you have to
yeah,
put that there.
exactly.
That's
They're like,
awesome.
yeah, they're like, if anybody's gonna start a business, you should. And I was like,
Right.
I don't know the first thing about owning the business, starting a business, and um, I am, however, extremely organized. And because I'm so good at RMF, DICAP, DITSCAP, all those things, I can follow a checklist from the state of Florida like nothing,
Gotcha.
and they're like, starting a business, start here. And I'm like, all right, I'll start
Right.
there.
Okay. No, that's awesome. Like a lot of people just don't know what that thing is, right? Like they're like, oh, I have a good idea, but how do I actually get started? So
Yeah,
it's good
I
to
guess I
see.
never thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ask you a question then. As a CEO and leader within your organization, you have to be good at knowing what you're good at, basically, for lack of a better term, and where you need people to fill in and what have you.
Yes.
Uh, However, my question being, so you have to be good at group projects, but do you like group projects? It's kind of a personality test.
Hmm. So, um, yes, I do.
Okay. Because
I
I
do like.
hate group projects, but
No,
I'm
I
good.
like.
I'm good at making it happen, but I'm just like, man, I just want to take this over myself.
No, I think I like working in a group. You know why? I think that's that like knowledge teacher thing in me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I prefer to work in a team versus work on my own. Unless it's like due something that's due like tomorrow, then it's like everybody leave me alone. I got this.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, yeah,
Okay. No, that's a really good insight because it's you have to figure out what kind of boss you are, right? So like
yeah,
everybody has to like during the interview process, I always say that same thing. Like I
that's a good
like
question.
to be in control, but I've learned when to
Yes,
relinquish control. But I don't personally like it. So I
yes,
think that'd be the hardest thing for me if I were a business owner would be the trusting people. Like I trust you because you're really good at what you do. You're a subject matter expert, things of that nature. But it's not my natural instinct. So it's interesting.
I think I have the opposite experience. Over time, I think I have quickly turned over a project and said, "Okay, I've put you in this position. Go forth,
Uh,
and do your thing." And then, a week later, I find out they've done nothing, and I end up having to do it all. So I'm starting to kind of have to find a better balance of,
gotcha.
that in between thing. Don't give it all, don't hand it all over, but don't be a micromanager at the same time. Find
Right.
a place in the middle.
No, that's awesome. That's a very good perspective, especially for those who are thinking of doing the track. Because just being a veteran in general, it's just they give you a lot of tools. I'm starting to see like more and more of it, right? Like you said, checklists. Like I look at the
Yes.
Florida checklist, I look at the VA checklist. Like they're like, hey, if you do these things, we can start to have a conversation to help you to start your own business.
Yes.
But it's terrifying to say, okay, I want to be my own boss and then be, servant leader. Like, yeah, you're my employee, but I work for you because you keep the business rolling. It's a lot of trust. Um, so I
Yeah.
salute everybody who comes on the show and then they say, "Hey, I'm the founder or the co-founder or the CEO." Just like, wow, that's it takes a certain type of personality. With that being said, so uh, that kind of really goes into your position for the organization. So you're the deputy executive director. Um, so where does that stem from? Where you said, "Hey, I want to be a mentor and inspiration to Latinos, Latinas, Latinx, the Hispanic community when it comes to cybersecurity."
So in my over 20 something years of being in cybersecurity or in IT in general, IT, I am typically, and I am not exaggerating, typically I speak in exaggerations, but right now I'm speaking in truth.
Got it.
I'm typically the only Hispanic woman, most of the time, the only woman in IT in a room. So I was approached by Eric Bellardo about joining his team, and him and I were acquaintances from from our military side, and I told him I would be honored. There's nothing that would make me happier than to see more Hispanics, more Hispanic women, more cybersecurity inside of schools. Not just high school, but primary school, kinder through
Right.
fifth grade, middle school. And I believe organizations like Raíces can do that. And in the end of the day, I think it's going to raise the amount of Hispanics that are in cybersecurity. And that would be amazing. I can't really give you statistics right now because I'm not really good at memorizing numbers, but it's a pretty low number. Um, Even worse for Latin women in
Right.
cyber. So we make up a very small group of people.
Right. And yeah, off the top of my head, I did know the stat. So when I started the podcast, I think it was people of color, or at least African Americans, only made up 7% of all of
Okay.
cybersecurity. And then only 3% of those were people who were actually in C-suite and senior level positions. I remember the numbers for Hispanics was either relatively close or slightly higher, but like you said, just women in general make up a very small portion. So I
Oh,
would assume that right within the demographic, it's probably even smaller. And that really surprised me. So that was a reason for the podcast, because I wanted to do something similar, right? I'm going to say,
yeah.
hey, I'm leaving the military, and in the military, it's pretty much a melting pot. Like, it still is lopsided,
Yeah.
but you see a lot more people who look like you, and you have a lot more of those conversations and mentorship and all those things. And when I talk to my friends, they're like, there's nobody here. You will probably be one of the few people who are going to be in the seat. And it's increased slightly, right? A couple percent. Um, but I think organizations like Raíces and Blacks of Cyber, WESIS, I think I pronounced that right, the Women in
Yep.
Cybersecurity. They're absolutely necessary because
Yep.
we do make such a small group within cybersecurity. So within your demographic, right, I see that as being both um, fearless and selfless, right? That you want to give back to your community. But again, like you said, you're probably one of the very few women within the C-suite, as well as within these type of organizations. So to do that, I mean, I definitely commend you, especially for you to rise to the position that you're in. What does the future look like for the organization?
So right now we've got our education program getting stood up. So once that comes out, then we're hoping to get our younger kids in underrepresented areas in general. So hopefully that gets them kind of, understanding what cyber is. Hey, maybe I want to be a cyber engineer when I grow up,
Right,
seeing how that could be an option for them. They don't have to be, you know, they don't have to say, well, if I'm not a doctor and I'm not a lawyer, then I'm not going to be anything important or anything. If I don't go to college, I'm a nobody. So I like to go to the schools here and I talk to them, or in Florida. I forget I'm not in Florida, but I like to
right,
go there and I like to, talk to them and say, don't be turned off by the cyber field. Not a degree isn't absolutely necessary to kind of start off. Get into a place, work a help desk, work an IT job, kind of start very basic, get the company to pay for your degree,
right.
and then just kind of work yourself into cyber. And that's kind of what these programs are going to try to get these kids, get them into certification programs so that they can also work CTFs for free. They can get certifications for free. They can get scholarships, things like that, so that they can already have the experience they need to get good cybersecurity jobs once they get out of high school.
That's awesome and very commendable, especially working with younger kids. So I finally had the chance to do the great teaching, I believe is what it's called. So I went to
Yes.
my kid's school. Yeah, he's a third grader, And then, yeah, seeing the kids' faces light up when you, I had a
Yes.
couple of slides that had like Roblox and stuff on it, just kind of broke it
Yes.
down. And it really surprised me. Not only did they actually read the material, right? So they were able to tell me scams that you shouldn't fall for, but also just seeing the light bulbs, right? As opposed to like you said, I don't have to be a fireman, a doctor, a nurse, like those things are
No.
by default. I can also do something like this. So yeah, I thought it was
Yes.
cool, and I can't wait to do it again. So it's good to see that this stuff is being baked in earlier. Because yeah, you can go to high school, but like most of those kids are already kind of,
Yeah,
yeah,
they don't.
they're
They're a
like
hot mess. You want to go to
slightly
the young
interested, yeah, slightly
one.
interested, but not as passionate, right? So
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's definitely the future. So no, that's cool. Um, so when it comes to CyberMyte, what initiatives do you guys have going on, or what does the plans look like for your organization?
So right now we support Gold Star Gamers, which is a nonprofit for kids who've lost their parents due to veteran parents, military
Right.
parents. And what they do is it's actually really cool. They have all these kids come together and they do games. And games are supposed to be their method of dealing with their loss. And they're all together, they're a community. And so what we've did was we've sponsored a server for them. We've built out this Minecraft server that allows them to have uh, what's the word, like a shrine for each of
Okay.
their parents.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then they have a town where they have sponsors, and those sponsors can sponsor these kids' areas and sponsor different things for the kids so that they can put them inside these shrines, and
Okay.
they can go there whenever they want. We have like this area where we can have a memorial service and all that kind of stuff for these kids, and they can all come together as a community and be together with each other during, whenever there's one of these events. So that's one of the things that we're really proud of. Obviously, we support Raíces Cyber. We host one of their CTFs, their Raíces
Okay.
CTFs. And then obviously we're here at DC because we're hoping to make a change with the SBIR program. Um, right now the requirements for small businesses in cybersecurity don't really, um, you know, work very well for the small business, and the requirements are just kind of outlandish and unmeetable right now. So, I'm here. I have my whole presentation ready to go, and hoping to provide some solutions to, mitigate that risk for the small businesses, and hopefully put together some sort of I don't know what I'm calling the cybersecurity pipeline for SBIR programs for these small businesses so that they can get some training, some extra funding, and that kind of stuff so that they can put together the cybersecurity program if they, once they get into these
Right.
SBIR contracts. Um, so yeah, that's hopefully we can make that change here and it gets approved. Um, yeah, so I think those are our biggest things. We're just trying to get our solution is a CyberMyte Cloud, which is basically it's a platform as a service that we've built out from hardware up to the platform level, and we've built it using this 853. Obviously, we started out with version 4, and it's on Rev 5 now, but that's too technical, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um,
So you speak my language, but
So, and we have our struggles too. Like, we need to get FedRAMP. Can't get FedRAMP. It's about $500,000
yeah, I was
just
gonna
to
say
get
it's
FedRAMP.
pretty cost prohibitive. So it's
Yeah,
good to hear that you have that initiative going because yeah, same thing with
yes,
CMMC 2.0. Like just looking
yeah,
at training itself, right? Like
yes.
I'm currently trying to secure some training because I'm a GRC guy
Okay,
by trade is what I currently do. And I saw the price tag and was like
it's
it's
ridiculous.
necessary, but does it have to be necessarily that high?
Yeah, no, it sometimes it kind of like it angers me, and everybody's like, well, when you go up there, talk to them about like, that they need to regulate all that stuff. I'm like, no, because nobody's going to agree to that. I
Right.
can't ask them to regulate the price of all this other stuff. These are businesses putting out their prices. This is just the way the world works. But I can definitely ask for changes as far as what are we doing to support these small businesses when they're going through the SBIR program. Why don't we sponsor them through the FedRAMP process? You know,
Right.
why don't they get an agency sponsorship? Not sure. I don't understand why they haven't been doing that. You know, just things like that. You know, I don't know that they know that these things are like a possibility. I feel like one hand doesn't speak to the other hand sometimes, or I guess most of the time, right?
Right. No, and that's a great initiative because I guess again, not to be too technical for the audience, but yeah, it's very cost prohibitive, and as well as it kind of just keeps the door open for those $1 trillion companies, right? Like they have the funding to be able to do such things. But that I thought the initiative was for small business to grow, to be supported by the government. So if you have a requirement that has to be met, then maybe you should subsidize, or like you said, like at least have
Right.
an on-ramp for these businesses. So
Yes.
I definitely appreciate you guys leading the charge for that. For like, I don't have a small business yet, but you know whatever the future may hold. Yeah, I look at the price and I'm just like, that is.
It's impossible. It's impossible. So the goal is if or once we get our FedRAMP, and I know there are organizations doing this now, but our goal is since we're using about 80% open source solutions to build out our cloud, we are able to provide our services at a very low cost. So the goal is to onboard our customers, and as we onboard them, we do the automated assessments, and then when we
Right.
go to do their CMMC, it's not this, they're inheriting so much from us. They're just doing this small little assessment here, and then they're not paying whatever. Honestly, I haven't even done quotes for your RPs yet. I've
Right.
just done quotes for the FedRAMP readies and FedRAMP full assessments. So those were outrageous, and I assumed the CMMC's RPs are gonna or RPOs are gonna charge somewhere very near
Yeah,
that
it's
cost.
it's 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 definitely going to be a rush to not to the bottom because I at being a GRC guy, right? So like my background's in IT security, networking, things of that nature. But when I did my transition, I was doing, I was working with the insurance group and all that good stuff. So I had a very easy on ramp into doing the
Okay.
NIST CSFs, the CISV8s, and then the 800 171s what I was working towards before I
Okay.
made my transition from the private sector into now I'm working for, I'm a federal contractor. Um, but when I was on the consulting side, I did see the ramp up. Like everybody was trying to hurry up and get secured because they know the money's going to start flowing in.
Yes.
And there was a lot of people who just would be unable to make it to the party, which I felt was unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of the game, but it's good to see that you're looking out for the small businesses to try to get their foot in the door as well. So you're not just dealing with the companies that build planes and engineer buildings and the people who have the capital to,
Have the money. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Some of these small businesses have stellar ideas, but they're so focused on their idea, which let them be. That's why we built our company so that they could just focus on their trinket, their,
right,
great idea. We just want to let them do that. Let us focus on the rest. Um, and that's all we want to do. Um, we want the small businesses that are trying to work with the federal government. We want to help them. We want to make them successful. We want to help them meet the 171 requirements, and
right.
in 5 years the CMMC requirements, whatever they are, 5.0 by then. Um,
Most likely,
so
yeah.
so yeah, I mean that's what we want. I think that it would be good for everyone, especially the warfighter, cyber warfare, if we could find ways to help some of these small businesses just come in and show us what they got. They have great ideas and great tools.
No, absolutely. So yeah, I think all those initiatives are great. Like not to skip over the Gold Star Gaming, which I think is awesome, and I definitely want to get
Yes.
more information about that to add to the description. So any and all initiatives, I want links to, so that way I can give it to the audience
Okay.
because I think all this stuff is awesome. But
Yes.
before I let you go, like, because I'm your CEO one, I need to pivot because you already have a lot on your plate, right? Like you're already brainstorming all that good stuff. What do you do to unwind? Like, what does that look like when you're not, again, CEO, CISO, co-founder, as well as a director, or I should say deputy executive director, right? So like you have all these major titles. What do you do when you want to unplug? Or
So,
is that even possible?
um, so I am a TV watcher.
Okay.
And I do work while I'm watching TV. I try not to, but obviously sometimes I just can't not work. Um, but if I leave my house, it's to do jujitsu.
Okay.
I am, I have 4 stripes or 3 stripes on my white belt. Oh yeah, I've been doing it for about a year now. So I do self-defense and jujitsu, so that's been
Okay.
fun. I do like to knit blankets. I actually started crocheting about 15 years ago. It was my way of quitting smoking, and it just kind of stuck.
Okay.
Keeps my hands busy, so it was just like, oh, I'll just keep doing it. So now my kids always ask me for blankets, and I just keep making them.
That's pretty cool.
Um, yeah, that's
Yeah,
about it.
my daughter's made some blankets. I was just like, I don't understand how this even works. Like, how do you create something like that?
It's just
Um,
knots, literally
yeah,
knots.
it's crazy to me. I just don't have the dexterity, I don't think. I don't know. But
Yeah.
so what type of TV shows? Like what are you watching?
Oh, anything crime related. I'm watching the 4th season of True Detective right now. Totally not the same as any of the other True Detectives. If you're into
So
that,
so it's kind of polarizing. Like people like I haven't started it yet, but some people love it, some people hate it. Like what
I I actually love it.
okay.
Yeah, I'm in love with it. It's different. I found the other True Detectives a little bit slow sometimes, just because I'm not a big fan of just all the talking. So you can see I'm a
Right.
very hyper person, so I like to just kind of see action instead of listening to it.
Gotcha.
So the other True Detectives were a bit more. They're the interview based, and they're just kind of narrating a lot. And then this one is just like this big story and
Okay.
kind
And
of
it's in
witchcrafty.
Alaska, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay, so
cold
that's
too.
yeah, so that's why I'm interested, right? I was stationed there. I was in Elmo, so I was at Elmendorf. So I'm like, okay, the show
Oh,
in Alaska is pretty
really?
cool. Yeah.
My oldest is stationed up there in Fairbanks right now.
Okay, yeah. So I've been up there. So I was Elmo is in uh oh man Anchorage, but I've been
Oh,
as far as oh man, what was it? Point Barrow, like so the very top of Alaska, Arctic
I don't even
Circle.
know.
Yeah,
I
this
lived there when I
Alaska's
was a
huge.
little kid. My dad was stationed there. I was 3 when I left. I actually have an Alaska Social Security number.
Yep, I got a kid with yep, it's Alaskan technically. So
People
he
would
has
ask me,
no
they're like, "You're
sports
from
teams or no,
Alaska?" I'm
yep.
like, "No."
So no, that's pretty cool. So no, that's awesome. So you're like my co-host. Like he doesn't like a lot of talking. He's straight for the action. Like when do we get
Yeah,
to the action part? So
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it. I definitely get it. So I wouldn't recommend Mr. and Mrs. Smith that because there is action, but there's a lot of talking.
I want to see it though. I want to see it though. I am interested.
But so that's what I've been binging recently. So I think I'm almost done. I have like 2 more episodes, and I like
Oh,
it.
are you?
Yeah, I like it a lot. But it does the thing. It does the trick where it jumps straight to the action, and they're like, okay, now we're gonna slow it down, and
Oh,
then yeah, so it
see,
picks
that's
back
like
up.
true.
But
That's like True Detective. That's what it does too. And I'm
okay,
just like, oh, that part was so good. Why didn't we just go to
right.
talking?
No, that's awesome. But no, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Again, I need to know like all your links and all that stuff so I can put it in the description. I think all you
Sure.
guys' initiatives are awesome.
Thank you.
Like I can see CyberMyte, I got to get you back on and talk about whatever comes up in the future for you guys, especially with the work you're doing currently in DC. And then Raíces. So I'm trying to know somebody from every organization. So now I know someone from Blacks of Cyber Security. I know somebody in Raíces, CyberOrg. I'm trying to find a Oasis connection. I just want to get somebody in each
Oh, I can get
organization.
you hooked up with
So
Lisa's.
okay, like that would be awesome. Just because I want to get them on the show. I want them to to talk about
Oh,
their
for
initiatives,
sure.
as well as like there's a lot of just good synergy between all the groups, right? Like we all have the same idea for our demographics. Like we just want to
Oh, yeah. I
grow the
can.
field. Also, it was really cool to have a small business owner who, came from the military and is out there hard charging. So I have a lot of, I've been having a lot of military people on recently. So my network is pretty expansive, but I don't know. Like we seem to be the entrepreneurs, which is awesome. Like I like
Yeah,
to
it's
see
weird,
that.
right?
Yeah, like we again, like you said, like we get into the private or the government sector, and like I could do better.
Yeah,
And so that's good to see, and it's great. It's great to showcase that for people who are thinking about potentially joining the military. So I always tell people like do help desk and join the military if you can. But I know things are kind
yes,
of scary right now, but in the grand scheme of things, you come out with so much, like when it comes to
yes,
school and travel and all the things you're going to learn. And then you
exactly.
have discipline, because that's what I didn't have before I joined. When I came out, like you have focus and discipline that you didn't necessarily
Leadership.
have
Yeah.
leadership, right? And like I said, I hate group projects, but I can get through it. So no, but it's very awesome for everybody who's listening. Thank you for tuning in. This one should go up relatively soon. We'll talk about that offline. But we'd love to have you back on the show again if you have any initiatives or anything. I thought this was an awesome conversation, and then I'll know you better, so I won't have to ask you basic questions. We can pick up from
Yay.
there. You can hit up the podcast by all of the websites that go by our name. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, and Threads. And you, Yvonne, where can people find you?
You could find me on Instagram at the CyberMyte team. You could find me on LinkedIn at Yvonne Rivera or CyberMyte team. I'm on Facebook as well, Yvonne Rivera or CyberMyte team. I'm on Twitter. I mean, X, whatever you call it, but I don't really post
Right.
on there anymore. So don't go searching for me there. I do have a YouTube channel. I have like 3 videos on there. You can watch them if you want. Um, I think you can find the link to my videos in my LinkedIn. So yeah, that's where you could find me. I'm not really big on social media. I should be. Um, I'm
I
too
get
shy
that.
to be on camera.
No, I get that. Like again, my co-host Shannon, he barely has a digital footprint, so everybody has their own thing. But no, again, thank you very much. And then I'll have all the links in the description below. So stay safe,
All right.
stay secure.
Thank you.